Welcome back to Mystical Sisterhood. This is your host, Maureen Spielman. I'm here with you today in celebration and contemplation. And if you know me at all, these two go hand in hand. As the premise of or foundation of the podcast is joy and healing, and they're really important to me because I know that they can exist at the same time. So thanks for being here today. I'm by myself. I have no guest, and this is the 20th episode of Mystical Sisterhood. I've had the absolute honor of interviewing 16 women and one man thus far, and the interviews have blown me away. How about you? I cannot thank you enough for going on this ride with me. I'm wondering what has been your experience of the guests and topics so far. I can say that I've lovingly heard from you when they do speak directly to your heart and soul. So keep the feedback coming. I absolutely love it. And I'm personally trusting that what is brought to me and the podcast will lift humanity and bring us into a higher consciousness. So those are lofty goals, but I really do feel the more that we have on this earthly plane of that type of content, um, the better for us all. So, one of the reasons that I'm coming to you today is because it's a 5-year anniversary for me. And I had been eyeing this date for a while, May 10th, and I knew that I wanted it to be a day of celebration of some sort. So I was originally thinking like, oh, will I go get a massage or will I do something, um, I don't know, along those lines to celebrate, have a meal, something. But then I thought, oh my gosh, that's the day the podcast come out. I can actually do a podcast of celebration of where I've been, what I have to share, and where I'm going along with where you've been, where you are now, and where you're going. I really think that the last 5 years in particular have been just huge, huge periods of the universe bringing us certain things that we never expected. And we have all grown so much from them, even in the really hard times. I think it's really important that we take a look at our lives and settle in this moment and see where have I been and what is next for you. And I'm not going to worry about the length of the episode. It'll be much shorter than my usual ones, but I'll focus more on what I'm going to share. And I'll trust that you will hear what you're meant to hear and share with others if you're meant to share. So I was thinking along the lines of what qualities come up when I think of the past 5 years. And they're endless, but they do include the qualities of fear and apprehension, which slowly became a willingness, leaning into trust, definitely intuition, new beginnings, community, wisdom, contraction, expansion, growth, letting go, allowing, and receiving. Those are just a few qualities that come to mind when I think of the many roads I've traveled. So I also got curious about the word anniversary, and it struck me to look up the Latin root of the word. I think that was a visit from my dad, our dad, because he was one of those kids that grew up in Catholic schools and they always took Latin. So I looked up the Latin meaning of anniversary, and the word that came was anniversarium, and it means turning of the year. So the anni has to do with the year, and verses or vertere means turned or to turn. So turned or to turn. So on an anniversary, we're literally turning a page. When you turn a page in a book, you don't know what's on the next page, but you keep going unless you really don't like it. I heard someone say recently that our birth and our death are like the back and front covers of a book, and our life is what transpires in between. And that really spoke to me. So we really do have these chapters of our lives. So I'm going to interchange anniversary with turning point. We all have these turning points And sometimes it can be true that they're happening for us all the time. Can we have many truths? Can we agree that we can have many truths around everything in our life? I think that's what I find. But my turning inward point was a diagnosis, and in the form of a breast cancer diagnosis. It came as a shock because I had no symptoms, no warnings, no family history, nothing that I was aware of at the time that tried to, there was nothing I could have done to see this was in my future. And what seemed like an instant life threw at me medical appointments and prescriptions and surgeries, and honestly, many things I was in opposition to. And that really forced me to get quiet, to get still and lean in. So I leaned into my family and my friends and trusted resources. And at first I was thinking it invited me to ask, how can I be in the flow and what's here for me to learn? But actually, in all honesty, those weren't the questions that came to me because I didn't live by those questions at the time. Now I do. But one of the first questions that beckoned me that has become so important in my life is, what's my intuition telling me about the big things that were coming to me? What am I here to let go of? And what can I possibly consider for my healing that I haven't considered before? And this opening up led to trying new complementary or alternative healing modalities like Reiki or acupuncture, or having my Akashic records read, or what is being channeled for me. And this is where I began with the opening. So if you're in a similar place right now in your life, or you reflect on something that's happened in your life that called you to get really still, what was there for you? And are there or were there new ways of thinking and being that were calling to you? I began to follow and trust my intuition. And like I said, it's really become a hallmark of my life as to one of the things I check with first. I believe intuition is one of the most overlooked yet powerful tools we have, and it's free. So lean in, invest in learning how to listen to your intuition. We could do a whole episode on that. So I'm curious what comes up for you when you get still and you think about your own turning points. Have there been several in your life? These don't have to be colossal life moments. My celebration today is around a big life moment, but so often it's not. So often they are. We know that maybe from our own lives or from friends or people close to us, that it often comes in a big form. And so it also can come in small forms. Um, you may be signs from the universe to consider a new job. Maybe there's a recurring anxiety that you're experiencing that's calling you to get in touch with and not push down. Maybe it's a call, like an internal knowing to take something out of your diet or begin a new type of movement or see a particular healer or doctor. The people in your outside world may come to you as a messenger of just what you needed to hear, or the message might be coming from within, something that you've long ignored that keeps on coming to you. I say that about mystical sisterhood. It was something that came in my mind 5 years ago, and then about a year ago it started coming back to me like, hey Maureen, pay attention to me. So pay attention to the things that are saying, hey, your name, pay attention to me. And I love that for all of us. But if we see these recurring thoughts or a new one that is coming to you, it's really important. I remember at the time, 5 years ago, that my inner voice was saying, you need more sleep. And the other one was, Maureen, you need to clear resentment you've been holding for a long time. And that was kind of hard because, we don't always want to let go of what we don't want to let go of. I'll just leave it at that. But it also may be you're just having a calling to slow down. You know that that's what you need right now. But what I do know um, is that we're always getting information as we hit these turning points. And it's whether I think we might have thresholds where it was sort of like before when we didn't know there were signs and things coming to us to pay attention to. to, oh my gosh, I'm beginning to realize, and can we talk about this and share with each other, to to really living and trying to live your life by like, wow, I'm really paying attention and waking up to what's coming to me on the outside. So important. Um, and for me, in the last 5 years, there's been a clarity around accepting the invitation to take a new journey. Could I work towards a flow or ease? Again, that question. Or did I want to stay in the uncomfortable opposition to what was happening? So I knew, because I knew, and you may too, that when we're in opposition and resistant, we might not be ready to let that go, but it doesn't feel aligned and it doesn't feel good. And I have to say about, you know, in my form, a diagnosis that came to me, it wasn't a journey that I wanted. That was very clear to me. Um, and it's a lot when our soul takes us in a new direction that doesn't feel good. I don't want to downplay that at all. The universe had my plans for my life that I didn't have in my calendar. We can talk about that calendar sometimes too, but this idea that we can map everything out and that we have this control. I think that's the sneaky thing about the universe. As so many of us know, what it brings to us is not guaranteed to be easy for us, but it is so much for our soul's growth. We know that over time. We don't always know that in the moment, but it's something I've learned over time. And it's true that all we have is the present moment, and we don't know what are around those corners or on that next page. Um, so is the journey to improve upon a relationship, study something really interesting to you, let go of a relationship? Maybe it's a call to start setting boundaries or simply giving yourself more compassion. But what is this invitation that comes to us and that has come to you, that you answered or you haven't answered? Another big thing that's happened over the last 5 years is my realization that I didn't think along these lines, that I had been conditioned to really look what was happening in my outer world. But over time, I realized that our lives look like they're all about the outer, but they're actually mostly about the inner. How could that be? I discovered that my conditioning had led me to over focus on outer circumstances. And, even though I was a soulful person and I had looked inward, I still looked to other people to be certain somethings for me. And that's something that um, I've had to let go of. Um, and that's not to say, I want to add here too, that do you remember just the the times in your life where you just knew a certain something, or you knew what culture was telling you wasn't right for you? But then I think like what I've learned over time is like the voices are just so strong from our outside culture that really forging our own path is a brave and courageous road to travel. And we have more people taking the invitation and listening and joining communities and being in conversation. And these are what I call conscious conversations, things that advance, you know, our inner worlds, advance what our soul is here to learn. Um, but on the outside, we're so cultured to look at the degree, the job, the car, the marriage. I don't know why the handbag came to me. The kids, our body is a representation of who we are. And that's not who we are. Those are things we have, and those are outward representations. And those were all that culture tells us is important. And, certainly advertising and marketing does too. But what is it that we begin to learn? And often in midlife, sometimes people wake up earlier, but often in midlife, we have just things happening inside of us and outside of us that wake us up, that lead us to this awakening. So one day I just woke up, and it was in one of my coaching programs with Dr. Shafali. But I woke up and I realized I had acted as if everything happened to me. And I shifted in that, and it wasn't shifting in a moment, it was shifting over months' time, shifted to know that life was happening for me and take responsibility. Like I had to take responsibility for myself and not putting what I needed on others to kind of like show up in a certain way. We can ask for it. That's a whole nother story. But yeah, I'm wondering for you throughout your lifetime, what's been on your outer list? What things have you felt so much pressure in society or culture to just feel what have you felt pressured by? And how has this changed for you as you've, gotten older, gotten wiser? Is it changing now? And I'm wondering what's showing up on your inner list to heal, to become more aligned with. And, when it comes to this, I hope I'm making sense. Is there an invitation you are considering accepting? And so that whole part on cultural conditioning is really because I think it's important to understand how this outside has affected us in our quest to find what's authentically ours or yours. What someone else named for you at some point in your life is really meant to be examined and become curious about, even if it's bringing it into conscious conversation alone. Does it fit anymore? And did it ever? And, one of the last points I want to make is just the journey inward. When I took the invitation, when I accepted it, also brought me to unresolved places inside and emotions, unhealed hurts and wounds. Like I said before, how I hung on to dear life for resentments, which I just felt so justified in having. I think I was tired and exhausted in a lot of ways. And as I began to understand more how I was showing up, how what I said I wanted on the inside didn't match the actions on the outside, how I was being triggered or reactionary, I just started to take more responsibility for the life I wanted to live. And I began to get really curious about how overwhelm and frustration or confusion had become internal operating states for me. And I knew it didn't feel good. And it was time to discover what was holding me back from how I really wanted to feel on the inside. Little by little, I began to see how voices of my past were still operating so much inside of me. I have looked over and over at my limiting beliefs and patterns and questioned so many of them, and a lot no longer fit. I have committed to myself to do this work so that I can thrive on the inside and in my outer relationships too. It's a byproduct when we work on cultivating an inner consciousness that is just more aligned with who we are authentically. We do all the work inside, and then it benefits our outer relationships. And, we decide which ones are a match for us anymore, which ones fit. And I'll tell you, the more I can hold myself with compassion and hold you with compassion, the better it will feel. So, the way that I went about this work is I had declared at one point in time about 5 years ago that I was going to go into the coaching world. And I did programs in integrative health and wellness. I did a conscious parenting program, which I really was thinking was like all about awareness and consciousness with Dr. Shafali Sabari. That was beautiful. And then separately through Susie Lula and her soul care coaching. And I just learned and grew. And I always think it's like we become aware and then we begin to integrate until we embody it. So to me, it's awareness, integration, and then embodiment. And that takes time. And I always say for all of us on this journey, to me, it's a journey of a lifetime. And there's beauty in that. And I think walking the path with each other is just so beautiful. Um, like I said, it was individual work and it was ongoing, just conversations with my biological sisters, um, and my adopted sisters. And, that's why I call this a sisterhood. And not that you can't listen if you're a guy and you identify in another way, but it is this spacious and expansive sisterhood that I'm looking to cultivate sort of within all of us and with each other. I have to give so much gratitude. These programs taught me new ways of looking at the world, that the universe is benevolent and that we are powerful creators. And so immersing myself in all of this led to my own inner transformation and openness to share it all with you. And sometimes I laugh because I did not know this was a calling for me. I didn't know that this was around the corner on the next page. So I'm just saying, I'm just offering. We don't know what's around, but let's be in this together. There's a lot of abundance. There's a lot of healing and there's a lot of abundance. And so at the beginning and end of each day, I know what I have is connection to myself first and foremost. I'm here to look inside at what I still carry that's no longer mine and what I can seek to let go of and put down. I no longer wish to be exhausted by that luggage. I don't think any of us do. And it's just finding the path to that healing for ourselves. And then the bigger connection with each other. And my journey inward in the last 5 years has informed everything I choose these days. It's why I chose to follow the path of conscious life coaching, to begin this podcast, and to begin and launch a monthly membership to the side of my coaching and the podcast, is that it's all about nurturing connection and communication and community. So what I want for you is what I want for me, for all of us, is to become more connected with yourself, more integrated and embodied within yourself, and to have a full out love affair with who it is that you came to be, and to be so inspired by what you bring to the table, and to develop or find the practices that keep you deeply connected to yourself. So thank you for celebrating that part of today with me. If it's you're listening on another day, hey, it's all the same to me. It's a celebration of where we've been, where we find ourselves, and where we're going. I'm going to offer you a personal invitation to consider today to join us in the Mystical Sisterhood monthly membership community. It's a community for women on this journey of self-reclamation, reclaiming the life you really want to live deeply and that you're so deserving of living. And my intention is to create a community, a sisterhood, a mystical sisterhood of awe and joy and abundance. And what it looks like is it's held in a space called Mighty Network. So it's off social media. And in the portal, we've got a really rich community feed where we can all share our experiences, share our questions. There are 4 live events per month where we take deep dives into the principles of the universe, practices for soul connection, connection with each other as women in community, and deep sharing is alive and top of mind. It's been my experience, and I'm going to say in the past 5 years, that the circles of light and the communities that I've been immersed in keep me on this path of thriving and keep me in an energetic vibration where I want to share it all with you and bring you all in, including whoever is meant to join any part of this journey. But and through the guests that I share, it's just all coming together. I truly believe when we connect with each other and support each other's abundance and thriving, humanity lifts. So to give you an idea, um, I said 4 live topics a month, and included in that is a guest speaker. And so far we've had in the first 3 months speakers on breath work, sacred writing, and this month is tapping into your spirit guides. So other things that we're going to cover your values and vision, and who are you now? Tapping into the abundance within, the language of the universe as our mirror, and creating safety and intimacy inside ourselves. What I want to end with is turning points can be magical. They can hurt, they can be painful, they can take time to get through, but they also can be magical. They can come to us from the outside, or they can come to us from an inner calling within. So you get to decide, where you go with that turning point. You get to choose, but I do believe the time is now. Let's do this work together, whether it's by continuing to listen into the podcast or sharing it with people that you think will be lit up by it. Choosing individual coaching sessions for your own inner transformation, or joining in the membership. I'd love to have you and your experiences and your wisdom and everything that you bring to the table. Bring a friend with you who you think might enjoy it. You can find the Mystical Sister application in the show notes and on my Instagram or my website, which is maureenspielman.com. Or Instagram is at Maureen Spielman. But lastly, what I want to say is celebrate your own light every day. Find a moment in each day to put your hand on your heart and say thank you to yourself for showing up however you are. I know you are appreciated. I know you are loved. And I think it's through exalting each other that we create the world we want to live in. So thank you for joining me on episode 20. I am so excited to just be beginning this dream of a lifetime in what is called Mystical Sisterhood. If you have any feedback for me, if you have any guests that you would love to see interviewed, my door is open, and you're all invited into this chapter of my life. Okay. I'll see you next time. And celebrate yourself. Thanks for listening to this episode of Mystical Sisterhood. To learn more about my one-on-one coaching programs or join the Mystical Sisterhood membership, visit maureenspielman.com or mysticalsisterhood.com. Thanks so much. I'll see you in the next episode.